Oh, welcome back my favorite Python programmers to a brand new video, and in this one we're going to be delving again into dictionaries, but this time we're going to be doing something just a little bit harder. So instead of a practice and a normal exercise, this is going to be a homework, and I'm going to show you two levels of doing this. I'm going to present you with the following homework and exercise, and then I'm going to be taking you step by step on how to solve it so that you know how to do it on your own. I'm also, of course, going to give you the chance to do it yourself before we delve in. And I'll show you how we'll do it the simple way, and then we'll use special functions, or not the simple way, the use of for loops with indices, and then we will use special functions and list comprehensions. But before we get started, I just want to give you a small message in the following video. If you're serious about leveling up your Python skills, let me tell you about what I do outside of YouTube. I've been teaching Python for over 5 years now, and I run a Python teaching institute where we help students go from complete beginners to absolute masters with a curriculum that focuses on practical application and building real-world skills. All the lessons are one-on-one and they are personalized just for you. This tailored approach ensures that you'll start seeing improvement within just 2 weeks, and by the 10th week you'll be on your way to mastery. And it's not just Python either. We dive into SQL, machine learning, and you'll graduate with over 5 portfolio projects to help you stand out to your employers. Oh, and for young learners, we also have a super fun Scratch program that starts with Scratch coding and gradually introduces Python through game development projects. So if you feel that this is something that you want to reach your goals faster, or you have someone that you love that you want to give them this opportunity to, or some younger kid, maybe yours, maybe someone else's, that you want them to learn Python and coding properly from a young age, make sure to reach out to me via WhatsApp on the number that I'll leave right here or in the description, or you can do the same by sending me an email to the email that I will leave somewhere around here or also in the description. Thank you so much, and let's get started with today's lesson. Okay, so what do we have in here? This is Dictionaries homework 1. So we need to write a function, nomod, that takes as argument a list of ints, of course being integers, without modifying the original list. So as soon as I see this, I already told you how I like to do things. I just like to get started, right? It's as I always say to all my students and to everyone watching, I like to get the ball rolling. So just write the function, define no mod, right? Takes in a list of integers, so I'm just going to call it my list. No need to specify more than that. It is enough. All right, so what do we have then? Find the ints that appear most frequently in the list. So we're going to have to immediately, I start thinking. So we need to go through the list. For loop. Create a new list with the same content. Okay, that means we're going to have to then go through the list. Create a new list with the same content. Remove all instances of the most frequently occurring integer, and then we return a new list. Perfect. So far so good. Let's look at what we have right here. So for example, no mod 13162, 1 appears twice, so 1 is removed. 4500, 00 appears twice, and the 2 appears 3 times in the last example. So how do we start thinking about this? First of all, we are working with dictionaries, right? So a great thing that we can do right here is to create a dictionary with keys being the integers and value being the number of times that this appears, right? Or this integer appears. And then we can get the highest value. And then what we do is we go through the list again, or we create a new list, and we only append that new list with the value that is not equal to the highest value, right? Or we append it with the elements that don't have the highest value, if that makes sense. So first things first is we need to initialize this new cool dictionary that we are creating, and this is going to be called the frequency dict. Again, this is dicty with a T, so please nobody in the comment report me. Now what we want to do is we want to go through our list. So we're going through each individual list. And then what we're doing is we're going to be adding that item to our dictionary, right? But what if we get to a number that was already in that dictionary? We'll need to add 1. So that means we need to have a condition inside of this for loop. The condition must check if this number is already in my dictionary. If it is, then I will append the value. If it's not, then I will create a new value. So I'm going to say for number, right? Because this is a list of integers. So these are numbers. I can't say int. Why? Because int is a shadow name. So if I hover over it, shadow built-in name, because int is a built-in function, or like it's an integer. You can't just call your variable int because we already have int as a function that converts different numbers to integers. So it's not good, even though it will not cause any issues, but still not a good idea. So we'll call for number in my list. And I'm going to say if that number is in my frequency dictionary, so it's already a value, I'm going to access that number, because remember, when we do this, we're checking if the num is a key in my dictionary. And what I do in here is I do plus equals 1. So I am appending that value. Remember, I use num because it's a key on the frequency dictionary, which means I'm accessing the value and I'm appending it by 1. And because we're keeping count. Else, which means that it's not, I will do the following. I will create this num, and what should I initialize it to? Think about it before I do it. Some of you might think we should initialize it to 0, but I think, and I know, we should initialize it to 1, because this is the first occurrence. So for example, right here, if we have 13162, once we encounter 1, we want to initialize the value at 1, not at 0, because that's the first instance, that's the first occurrence of 1. So we have to initialize it at 1, because once we encounter it again, we need 2 plus 1, which means 2, which means a total number of 2. So we initialize it to 1, and now we have our dictionary. So let's go ahead and actually test it out. So I like to test these things out, so I'm just going to return the frequency dictionary, and right here I will print out frequency, oh, no mod, and I present it with the list that I showed you in the example. Let me just see if I can find it. All right, so it's 1, 3, not minus 3, 1, 3, 1, 6, 2, right? And I will duplicate this to add the other 2 dictionaries that I gave as an example. Of course, feel free to create your own examples and test it out on your own lists. And right here we have 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, right? 3 2 2s, 3 2s, 3 2s. So let's go ahead and look at the frequency dictionaries that come out. So as you can see, of 1 we have 2, correct? 3 we have only 1, 6 we have 1, and 2 we have 1. And the same holds true right here. So we found that 0 occurs twice, and we found that 2 occurs 3 times. Perfect. What is the next step? The next step is to find the highest value in this dictionary. So again, keep in mind, I'm going through these without any special max or min functions. So what I'm going to do is I will remove this. This was just for testing. And I'm going to go through my dictionary again. But I am trying to search for the highest value. So let me go ahead and initialize the highest value. So it should be the max underscore value. And what should I be setting it to? Well, sometimes some people like to set this as minus infinity, and that is completely fine. That is correct. But I know that I'm going to have at least a 0, at the very least, and my lists are not empty. So the max value can be set to 0, because at least it's gonna be 0. If I was working with negative values, I would have set it as minus infinity so that I can find higher values. So the max value, I'm going to go through the list or go through the dictionary. So for number in frequency dictionary, of course, right here you also have the option to use .item. so that you can have access to the value or to the key and the value at the same time. Not super necessary, depending on your preferences. It's all good. So right here, we're going to check what's the value at this number. And we're going to say if the frequency dictionary at that number is greater than the max value, then I will replace the max value with the frequency dictionary at that number. And that is basically it. So every single time we find a value or inside of the dictionary that's higher than the max value, we will save it and we will print it out, or save it in the maxed value. So let's see, we should see that we have 2. Oh, my mistake. We need to also keep track of which key it is at. So I will say max key equal to, we can set it to none actually, because even though we know that these are going to be integers, so we can set it as an integer, but sometimes we don't, right? So I want you to have good habits and make sure that it's a none, because sometimes keys are strings. So the max key will be equal to the number. So let's go ahead and return. See, this is how I sometimes solve things, even though I've done this like so many times. I just remembered, wait, there's something missing, right? We need the max key, because we will need to be removing it later on. So we need to return the max value and the max key. And a side note, what will be the return value of this, since I'm returning 2 elements? You are right, it's going to be a tuple. I don't even need to add parentheses, because my IDE will tell me that this is redundant. Remove redundant parentheses. See? Wait, see? So now let's see, we should have the max value, we should see 2, 2, and 3, and the max key will be 1, 0, and 2. So let's see, 2, 2, 3, 1, 0, and 2. Perfect, it works, excellent. So now we have the max keys. That's even more important than the max value, because our final goal, or our final task, is to remove all instances of the most frequently occurring integer. And we need to do this on a new list. So first things first is to create a new list, and we finally have to return this new list. Let's go ahead and do that. So right here, let's go ahead and create the new list. So we'll call this the new list. Let's not complicate it, just square empty brackets. And we're going to go through our dictionary. So we're going to say for let's say the key in frequency dictionary. All right, now, maybe at this point it would be better if we go through the items, because we can go through the key and the value, and then we can check if that value is equal to, or no, we can just check the key. We can just check the key. So for key in frequency dictionary, if the key is equal to the max key, or if it's not equal to the max key, makes our life much easier. If the key is not equal to the max key, then the new list dot append with that key, right? So we're appending our list with the keys that are not the max key, and then we should return that final new list. So 3 steps. First of all, we create a dictionary that has the key value pairs, with value being the amount of these integers occurrence in our lists. Then we find the highest value and the highest key, and then we create a new list and fill it with only the key that is not equal to the max key, and we return our new list. So let's right click and run, and it should be similar to what we had right here. So 3, 6, 2, 4, 5, and 1, 1. So I think we have a mistake right here, because one of the ones was not appended properly. Let's see. I apologize. This is a very big mistake. Instead of going through the dictionary, I should have been going through my original list. And that is the reason why I only had a single one, because when I was creating the frequency dictionary, I was creating a single key value pair of 1. And that is why 1 appeared once, because I was going through the frequency dictionary, and that was not correct, and I apologize for that. And we can keep these the same, so 4 key in my list. I don't know, let's just actually call it 4 number. It's better. 4 number, and then we replace these values. Okay, sorry for that. I know this, I could have removed this mistake, but I chose to keep it because, yeah, sometimes that's what happens. I make mistakes and things don't come out as well as I thought, even though I've done this like already 4 or 5 times. This exact exercise, a bit different, but almost the exact same. Right click and run, and there we go. We get 1 and 1, just like we said. Okay, so we have solved this with some mistakes along the way, but now we want to make it a little bit smoother, right? So there are 2 places where we can optimize this. The first place is going to be right here, and believe me, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines are going to become a single line, and then these right here are going to also become a single line. Let's first go ahead and solve this one, because it's slightly easier in the sense that we've already done it before, and if you are a subscriber, you should know how we do this. We're going to be using list comprehensions, and it's pretty simple. Instead of doing all of this, right, we're going to be creating a list comprehension. So we're going to say that this new list is going to be made out of numbers for num in my list. And actually, you know what, I apologize, let me keep this to use it as a reference. I will comment it out, and I will say for it's a list of numbers for number in my list if number different than max key, right? So this is called list comprehensions. I will link a video somewhere about list comprehensions, or you can check it out on my channel. Basically, it means the exact same as this, but we do it on a single long line. In any case, let's go ahead and test it out. We need to have we need to have the same result that we got right here. And yes, we do. Now, this one is going to be a bit harder. It will be much simpler, much simpler or whatever, but it's gonna look much harder. I'm going to say that the max key, the max underscore key, is equal to max, right? And this is the max function. So if I hover over it, right here, you can see that it takes in an argument and it takes in key right here. And we'll see what that is. So first of all, we need to find the max in the frequency dictionary. Now, if we do this, what will happen, let me actually print out the max key. Now, don't worry about any of the outputs right here. It's gonna be a bit clunky. Focus on the print that we get. And I'll actually also print out a few dashes right here, right? Just so we can see the difference. Okay, so the answer was, first of all, 6, and then 5, and then 2. So it's comparing the actual, right here, you can see that it's comparing the actual key, right? It's comparing the key. So it's seeing that 6 is the highest key, and then it's seeing that 5 is the highest key. So when we do this, we're actually checking the highest key. But of course, we don't want that. We want to check the value at that key. So we can do the following. We can say key equal to frequency dictionary dot get. One caveat though, we want to remove this because we want to use this method that's being called on the frequency dictionary as an object. And now look what will happen. Now we got everything done correctly, and you can see that 1, 0, and 2. And what are these 1, 0, and 2? You should probably know. It's right here, the actual keys that should be removed that occurred the most. So 1 occurred twice, 0 occurred twice, and 2 occurred 3 times. I'll keep this so that you can go through it and check it out and understand it. But before I go, I want to explain this right here. So basically what we've done is, as you saw, when we did max on the frequency dictionary alone, it simply went through the keys and it found the max key. But then we said key equals frequency dictionary.get, and this is called the key parameter in our max function. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to get the maximum or the highest value, but not necessarily on what's presented to it directly, but on something specific that we want. So sometimes we want to maybe check for dictionary, we have a list of strings, and instead of checking, for example, the first or second element, usually when you compare strings in a list, it only checks the first element, right? The first letter inside each string. But what if we wanted to compare it or check the max based on the third letter in each string in a list? You could specify that using the key. And in this instance, what we said is we want to compare and get the max value for each key using the .get. And if you don't know what the .get is, it returns the value for each key if the key in the dictionary exists, right? So that is what we're basically doing in here using the get method. And the reason why we did not have these, because what will happen, first of all, we have an issue in here because it requires us to send in an argument, but we don't want this to be an argument. We simply want it to be used on each key, right? So that's why we did not actually call it. When we add these parentheses, we're calling the function. Now we're not calling it, we're sending it as an object because we want to use the .get on each one of these. I really hope that all made sense, and this is the results that we get. I will remove this, right click and run, and boom, the results are correct. And I will just delete these. I usually like to keep them, or actually let me just do this, and look, this is the difference. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope things made sense. We've seen list comprehensions several times. We haven't seen the use of keys with the max. I'm going to find a way to integrate it, especially because I know that for me, when I saw these and whenever students see these, it's always confusing. It's always hard, but trust me, once you get the hang of it, once you use it 2, 3, 4 times in different ways, it's gonna become automatic to you. As you're writing the long for loop that we saw, where we were checking if it's greater than the max value, blah, 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 it's gonna become automatic for you. As you're writing, just like what happened to me as I was returning the value and I noticed like, wait, I should have the key. The same thing will happen to you where you will realize that, oh, I can just use max with a key parameter right here. And that's how life works, and this is how you become a great programmer. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. As I said, if you want to become a master Python programmer in no time, make sure to hit me up on my WhatsApp or my email to get started. And if you have some loved ones or some kids, or you know some loved ones that have kids and want to learn Python programming, get a head start before they get into, I don't know, high school, university, or whatever, you can contact me and we can get started. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.